buddy Murf back once again for an episode of RFR Rundown. This is where myself and my co-host, my buddy Swag Jeff, we run down some of the most significant Raiders stories that happened throughout the course of the week. And so without further ado, welcome Swag Jeff.
Yeah, back again for episode 4 of RFR Rundown. It's the Derek Carr episode.
The Derek Carr episode. And
yeah,
we got tons to get to tonight. There's so many cool, fun Raider stories.
Yes, it was a big week in Raider Nation.
It really was a big week. And so we appreciate all of you joining us tonight or whenever it is that you're joining us. It could be on your lawnmower.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Raider Nation.
That's right. And so I appreciate you joining us. And and if you're digging the rundown, let us know. If you're not digging the rundown, let us know. This is a new venture for us. And I appreciate all of your feedback. And let us know what you think about the new format and what we're doing here within Raider Nation.
Yes.
And also, if you do like what we're doing, tell your friends. Tell them about Murf's Fan Cave and the Murf's Fan Cave network of shows, please.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. You get a whole bunch of stuff you subscribe to us.
That's right. You get all kinds of shows. You get this show. You get Raiders Fan Radio Live, which we will be doing tonight with the one and only Uncle Mosh. And then, of course, things like Mojo Pod Show and all that good stuff. So
yes,
appreciate you joining us here in Murf's Fan Cave. Subscribe, hit the bell on the YouTubes, as the kids say. You can find us there, youtube.com/Murf's Fan Cave. All right, so Jeff, we got a lot of show tonight, so we're going to jump right into it.
Yes.
This is the RFR Rundown. We run down all the big Raider stories of the week. And, tons of draft news.
Yes, absolutely.
Tons of stuff that came out this week, stuff that is directly related to the Raiders and stuff that is directly related to the league. So let's go ahead and jump into it. How the draft logistically is going to work as a league in terms of how they are going to impact the teams. The Raiders this week have vacated the Alameda facility in entirety. Their days there are done because the draft is going to be operated remotely. As Roger Goodell in the league says, you guys are done. All the teams, you're done at your facilities. You got to do it remotely. And so let's hear a little bit from Ian Rappaport on that very subject.
Yeah, and Andrew, this is not a surprise. This is the same thing that the NFL advised general managers on Friday to begin to anticipate. And, a lot of people have been joking, including you, by the way, about this looking like fantasy drafts. It's not going to look like some fantasy drafts because it's not going to be like personnel guys and assistant GMs and cap guys. They're not going to be with the GM on the couch drinking a beer. This is going to be everyone in front of their computer, maybe at their kitchen table, basically on Zoom or some other video format, conducting their draft. And the reasons for this, Mike, are basically obvious. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, facilities are still shut down. There are also state laws that are preventing some people from coming to work at all as a way of being equitable for all teams and making sure that everyone is on a completely level playing field in this time that really is like none other in league history. Roger Goodell is making sure that everyone is staying safe and doing the draft from their own home. And I talked to a general manager today. Obviously, there are concerns about just the communication. Will there be a way for the GM, the assistant GM, and someone else to all jump on the same call to do a trade? A lot of logistics to figure out, but this is reality now.
So, Jeff, I got a couple thoughts around that.
Yeah.
In that, one, I get it. Look, they're not in their facilities. They don't have all of the resources that they typically would have in their, quote, war rooms or whatever. But as connected as we are as a society, as connected as we are to one another and to information, and we're in the knowledge age. We're not even in the information age. It's like, because at this point we know everything.
Yeah.
You can ask your phone anything and Google will tell you the answer. Like, the history of the world is at your fingertips.
Right.
So there's not like they're going to be starved for information. If this would have been the 70s, this could have been a disaster. Like, this would have had to have happened over like weeks probably.
Yeah,
or something.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I don't even know what the logistics were way back when they had 12 rounds of the draft or whatever. But anyways, point being though, is that in today's modern day draft, if they were tried to then revert back, it could be real ugly. But that's not what we have. We effectively have a bunch of people remote that are already, when you think about it, even though they were in their war rooms or their facilities, they were all remote to begin with. You didn't have 32 teams at Radio City Music Hall.
Exactly.
Like all hanging out together. Like they were already remote. Well, now instead of being remote at the facilities, they're going to be remote at their kitchen table, as Ian said there. But that's not dissimilar. I don't think it's that far of a stretch. Heck, you and I, in our day-to-day jobs, do so much of it remotely. Yes, I could do more at a facility, but I don't really starve for ability being connected remote with the advent of the internet and all the connectivity. What do you think on that?
Well, so for the last several months, the team has been getting ready for the draft. We're now at crunch time. We're a few weeks away from the draft. Everyone knows what they need to know about every single player. They have backup plans. They got backup plans. They got backup plans. Everyone knows what they're going to do. And so do they all need to be in the same room at this point? No, I don't think so. I think this is the right move by the NFL. And I think that, Gruden and Mayock are going to be at their own houses, with the Raiders shirts up top and underwear underneath or whatever, and they're going to be drafting our next superstars, and that's okay, and that's good.
Absolutely, I agree. I don't think it's going to be that big of an impact. I mean, they're going to have all their cut-ups. They're going to have all everything that they're going to need at their fingertips. I don't think they're going to be starved for information at all. All right, so I think the bigger, in terms of the way that the draft is conducted nowadays, I think the bigger logistical challenge for the league is the broadcast. And, we already know that clearly this isn't going to be a fan event like it has been in recent years where everybody, convenes in one particular city.
Yes.
Like we did in Nashville last year, the amazing 2019 draft. So we know that's not going to happen. So you remove that out of the equation. Well, now what's left? You got the broadcast, right? That's the moneymaker. That's the big deal. Well, logistically, that's a challenge because And I tell you what, let's go to Rich Eisen first. Rich Eisen can explain it much better than I can. Here we go.
Again.
The NFL draft is going to go down on April 23rd. And he had a lot of stuff in his column about the broadcast. My name was mentioned in it, okay? And that the 23rd through the 25th, according to Peter, is going to be a single broadcast between my network, NFL Network, and ESPN together on both of our channels. And where I'm there with DJ, he mentioned those two names, and there's going to be some people from ESPN who are involved in it, and we're all going to be doing one big draft cast together. Here's what I can tell you, all right? Here's what I can tell you. Okay. I am preparing to host the draft and pin a microphone to my lapel or have one directly in front of me. I am preparing to do that from my home office where I did the Zoom shows 2 weeks ago. If anybody wants to know what that looks like, just take a look at our shows from 2 weeks ago, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. I'm sitting in my home office. I don't know if that's the corner of the desk that they'll choose. They've got professionals who are going to come in. As I told them, whoever's coming in to do this thing better come in dressed like Walter White, ready to cook, all right? and set this whole thing up. And I'm going to have a home camera, and I'm planning on doing the draft. I don't know how many networks you'll see me on, because right now it is a fluid situation, to say the least. That it could change tomorrow, again, based on the virus. Based on everything. Because according to Peter, it would be coming from the control room in Bristol, Connecticut. It is a monumental task. The playbacks of all of who gets drafted and then
Willie
the videos
and
all of that stuff for us.
Crazy.
And ESPN's got legions of people who do this thing. And I will tell you this about how all of the production staffs are trying to probably make heads or tails of it all right now. And I say this with you hopefully knowing that what I'm saying does not even remotely compare to the degrees of difficulty of what's going on in the real world and the most important people who are trying to do the most important things in terms of saving lives. Please understand this. I say this just from the point of view of broadcasting a draft. It is, for me, and thus I also believe for everybody in control rooms, the most logistically difficult broadcast, period.
All right, so there's Rich talking about it, and
wow.
he kind of goes on further from there. And the reason that it's so tough is that you have you got players in multiple locations.
Yes.
You've got teams in multiple locations. You've got multiple networks. You've got multiple analysts. You've got all these different things that now you have to intertwine. And if he's talking about doing like some sort of simulcast where historically it's been ESPN and NFL Network, and they're both set up, they're both posted up in different places.
Yeah.
They got their own panels, they got their own thing, whatever. So all that said, so now you're talking about simulcasting this thing. It's going to be real tricky for them, but pretty cool. I'm excited for what it's going to look like. I have faith in folks that are at the NFL Network. Their programming is top notch, man. The production quality of everything in NFL Network is top notch, and I think this is going to be a good thing. It's going to be a fun thing. It's going to be a nice thing for us as fans that we've been starving for sports.
Oh my gosh.
We got no hockey. We got no start of baseball. We've got no NBA. I mean, because hockey and NBA right now, this time of year, is starting to get...
Yeah, this is playoff time.
Probably to get real fun, right? And so, so we're definitely missing for that. So this will be nice as fans to be able to get that, as sports fans as an entire, as a whole, not even just NFL fans. But anyway, so that said, we have some fun plans for this.
We've heard the logistics of the NFL. And so we have our own logistics that we're doing. We are going to be simulcasting on the Mojo Pod Show Network, and we're going to be doing a live draft party.
It's going to be so fun.
Oh my gosh, a cave party. It's going to be the best.
It's going to be the best. So it'll be you and me and Mojo and then Raider Dave from the Grimy Raider podcast.
How cool.
So it's going to be cool. So look for us on Mojo's Pod Show on that channel. You can find that on YouTube.
Yep.
And so look for us there.
Yep. And it'll obviously be here on Murf's Fan Cave Network on the podcast.
That's correct. We're going to pull the audio from it and we'll have it available here on Murf's Fan Cave podcast network. And as Jeff just mentioned, and so it should be fun, man. I'm looking forward to this.
It's going to be so much fun. What time are we starting that? Is that, I think, 4?
What time does the draft start?
I don't know. We should have looked that up.
We should have looked that up because, we got to be careful with Mojo because, we partake a little bit on that show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
it's going to be like a 2 beer per hour thing or something like that if we're going to be going 4 or 5 hours.
I know. Be careful, man, because otherwise by the time we get to pick 20 or pick 19, we're going to be like, what did I get that guy for?
We're going to be at pick 12. We're going to be in the pregame watching Rich Eisen, and we're going to be smashed.
You're like, what the heck did they pick that guy?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, pretty fun stuff. Anyways, so look forward to that and watching the Raiders on draft day. So
absolutely.
So some interesting talk has gone on, and we've talked about it here on this show, on multiple shows on the Cave, about the prospect of the Raiders drafting a quarterback.
Yes, we talked about that last week and whether Gruden does that or not, and not typically.
Not typically. And so if they were to say draft a quarterback in round 1, there's a lot of movement that would have to occur unless they just stay where they're at and pass on a skill position player or another skill position player and were to take them ahead of a quarterback. Outside of that, to get the quarterbacks that you're going to want to draft in a round like this, you're going to want a Joe Burrow, you're going to want a Tua Tagovailoa, maybe even a Justin Herbert. You're going to need to be better than 12 to get a player like that.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about the logistics of that in itself here in a minute via the trade value chart, which we hinted at last week on RFR Live.
Yes.
Didn't have a chance to get to it. We're going to cover it today. But before we do that, Daniel Jeremiah says don't look to the Raiders to draft a quarterback anyways.
Having a virtual meeting here with Justin Herbert. DJ, they're picking 12 and 19. Are they a team that could be moving up for Justin Herbert here?
First of all, I will add the Raiders IT guy to my prayer list because I know Mayock and the FaceTime thing, that can't be going smoothly. But I will say I don't think the Raiders are going to trade up. I think if you look at the needs they have on that roster, especially at the receiver position, I just think they'll sit at 12. If Herbert were to fall to 12, I could see them doing that. But if he's gone, I think you got so many other needs to address. I don't see them trading a bunch of those picks to launch up to get a quarterback.
But DJ, John Gruden, if we know one thing about him, always is in the quarterback business. If he has one quarterback, he needs 10 quarterbacks.
That's true. I mean, they collect quarterbacks. I think Marcus Mariota can be his project, though. That's like the car that he gets to work on in the garage. That's going to be the project there for John Gruden.
Absolutely.
Oh, where'd you hear that sentiment before, right?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. And that's I think being that Mariota is in-house now, I don't see them going after a QB. Just like DJ said there, I think that he's on the nose, man. That's going to be the quote project, and a viable player. Like, this is somebody that it's not like I'm going to go on this thing again. It's not like we haven't seen Mariota have legitimate success in the league already.
Right.
Yeah, he had a challenging time this past year. Yes, he got benched. We get all that. But he also went into Kansas City and overcame an 18-point deficit and won a freaking playoff game. Like, so we've seen this guy do some pretty spectacular things on the field, taking off for 79 yards at a time for touchdowns and whatnot. Like, we've seen him do some amazing things. So I think that's where the Raiders' investment in quarterback lies. It's going to be in Derek Carr. It's going to be in Mariota. And then I think it kind of stops there, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, he mentioned right there, he goes, well, maybe if Herbert drops to 12, or you can replace that with if Jordan Love drops to 12, or if, Tua drops to 12. Do you even still take him at that point? I mean, I don't know.
Is there value? Is there much value in terms of on-field impact in 2020?
Right.
Taking that player versus taking Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, CJ, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of players out there that are like plug and play. Like, all of a sudden, without Apple coming on board, and we're going to get to free agency, another follow-up on free agency in a minute, but all of a sudden with that deficit now at corner, like, whoa, like, now we need corners. Like, now...
Yeah. It's either go snatch a guy like Logan Ryan, pay him out the butt for it, or you go to the draft and you pick him at 12 and then go settle for Ruggs at 19.
Right. Or both.
What I mean?
Because we don't even have Worley signed yet. So we're talking about Trayvon Mullen as your starting corner, and then
Isaiah Johnson.
There you go. I mean, so we need help. So all right. So to finish this up, and to finish the thought that I started last week, in terms of the Raiders drafting a quarterback in the first round. Now, you heard Daniel Jeremiah there refer to what they would do if one of those high-profile players are there at 12. All right. Well, what if the Raiders were to move? Okay, now, so there has been, granted, not by the most reliable sourced websites and things, blogs and whatnot, but the idea has been floated around, and I think it's a fair one, that the Raiders could, with the amount of draft equity that they have, move around within the first round to get a quarterback, to get one of these high-profile guys, the three that we just talked about.
Sure.
Okay. So the Raiders have 5 selections in the first 3 rounds. We pick at 12, we pick at 19, we pick at 80, 81, and 91. So those are 2 firsts and then the 2 third-round picks. If they want, say, just for crazy talk, say they wanted to go get Joe Burrow. Say they wanted to get the can't miss quarterback prospect of the decade so far, right?
Yes.
Like, he's the guy. Like, he's of the last, I don't know, since probably Andrew Luck. Like, that was the last time that I can think of, just off the top of my head, the last time we had a guy that it was like,
clear cut, this is the number one guy. Yes.
This is the man. Like, it, because even the others that have found success in the league to this point, even you look at, Mahomes or Deshaun Watson or I don't know, whoever, there's a bunch of them. They weren't slam dunks. There was a lot. Patrick Mahomes didn't even start. Like, there was a lot of question marks around some of those players out there. Joe Burrow, there ain't no question marks. Like, this is a guy you're going to plug and play. There's
and we talk. And sorry to interrupt you, but we talk about. We've talked about. Well, what if Tua slips? What if Herbert slips? What if Jordan Love slips? We ain't talking about if Burrow slips.
Yeah,
Burrow is going number 1 overall. And even we can talk about. We talked about Mariota. You could talk about that draft because everyone, him
and Jameis.
Yeah, is it Jameis? Is it Marcus? Who is it? This draft, I think, is the first draft. Yeah, maybe since Andrew Luck that you're like, this is the guy.
This is it. This is the man. So, Matt Ryan was that guy once upon a time. It was like, okay, this is the guy. This is the quarterback of the draft. Like, this is the can't miss guy. All right. So say the Raiders wanted to go get the can't miss guy, the face of the franchise, the guy that's going to quarterback us for the next 15 freaking years. Okay. What would it cost? Well, there's a value chart that Jimmy Johnson built in the 90s. In the early 90s, the Cowboys developed a draft pick value chart under the guidance of Jimmy Johnson. The goal was to assign a numerical value to each selection to use as a general guideline in trade talks. NFL teams are not required to abide by this chart and are free to seek more or less than suggested in deals. However, most swaps of choices usually fall in line with these basic values. So the idea is, do teams do goofy stuff at times, a la the Chicago Bears, to go up and get a Mitch Trubisky? Do they do things that don't follow the chart exactly? Yes, but for the most part, when you see teams move within the draft, especially in the earlier rounds, they adhere to the values assigned in this chart. All right, so I'm going to read you a couple numbers here. So the first round pick is worth 3,000 points. Okay, the 222nd or 224th pick in the draft, the end of round 7, is worth 2 points.
Oh, okay.
So you get an idea of the disparity between the numbers. Okay, so that first round pick is worth 3,000 points. So basically, you have to equate enough value to 3,000 points for the Bengals, if they even wanted to move, to consider the idea of moving out of that number 1 pick. Okay, so what would that mean for the Raiders? Well, Derek Carr was drafted 36th overall. So that has a point total of 540. Now, if you draft Joe Burrow, you sure as heck aren't starting Derek Carr. I wouldn't think so.
No.
Okay? You're probably not even considering having him on the roster anymore.
Right.
So could you package a trade to Cincinnati to send Derek Carr and what? Well, if Derek Carr is only worth 500 points, it means you got to come up with 2,500 more points. Well, the Raiders' first round pick at number 12 is worth 1,200 points. Their first round pick at 19 is worth 875. Their 80th pick is worth 190, and their 81st pick is worth 185. So essentially, you'd have to package both first round picks and 2 of your third rounders and Derek Carr.
Wow.
To go get Joe Burrow. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then you don't have anyone, you don't have a draft or a pick in the draft to get them to throw in, or have someone to throw it to.
Who's he throwing it to? Whoever,
Right.
Hunter Renfrow, Ty Williams, and whoever the third rounder is.
And Waller,
And Waller, of course. But yes, so clearly that doesn't make sense for the Raiders.
No.
So anybody that's floating that out there, just like last year when it was like, oh, John Gruden wants to go get Kyler Murray. No, he doesn't, and that's why. Okay?
Right.
That value chart, so any hype going into the draft, when any of your buddies not at the bar because we're not at the bars now, but any of your friends, anybody on social media says, watch for the Raiders to do this, it's BS. It doesn't work.
Yes.
Now, what is a little more feasible is a position like number 4. Okay, so at number 4, that equates to 1,800 points. Well, if Derek Carr is worth 500, it's actually 540, and you need to get 1,300 more points, well, their first round pick at 12 is worth 1,200 points. So if you package your first round pick at number 12 for 1,200 points and Derek Carr, that's 1,740 points to get to the number 4 spot. Is that worth Tua Tagovailoa? I don't know. Maybe, but you can see that's a little bit more sense because now you got you still got that first round pick.
Still got the 19.
Still got the 19. You still got your 2/3. You still got, that's a little bit more feasible. So anybody that wants to report on that, it makes a little bit more sense. I still don't think it's viable. I still don't think, it's not like Derek Carr is some chump. It's not like he's a bad quarterback.
Right.
Yes, we'd like him to have better numbers at times. We'd like him to be more clutch in certain situations. But in terms of his overall play, he's not worth moving on from all these picks and all this equity just to get into a spot to draft somebody like Tua or Burrow or even Justin Herbert. So, Jeff, all that said, your thoughts?
Yeah, you said it all. You got a guy like Carr who yes, like you said, he, can improve, but most quarterbacks in this league can improve, and so, how much better off are you trading the guy and getting, I don't know. But then you got a guy like Marcus as the backup. To me, when they signed Marcus, and they signed him early, he was one of the first, the first, almost first player.
Was he before Littleton?
Yeah.
I think so.
He was on that, the night it opened up, it was immediately you heard talks about Marcus, and then he's there. So they have obviously a lot, they wanted him bad.
That was a target. That wasn't that's nice to have. Oh, look he's still around. Let's go talk to him.
Exactly.
No,
there was plenty of quarterbacks still out there, but Marcus was their guy that they wanted to bring in. So I think that night pretty much, to me, sealed the deal that they're not going to get a quarterback.
Absolutely. Good stuff there, Swaggo. All right, so speaking of free agents, I told you we got a lot to get to tonight. We're not even done. We're only halfway through this. All right, so speaking of free agents, let's follow up on that. Now, we followed up just now on Marcus Mariota, kind of our thoughts around that. Also, Jeff, one of the guys that we signed didn't even make it as long as Antonio Brown did as a Raider.
Yeah. AB's more of a Raider than Eli Apple is.
Eli Apple. I followed and unfollowed his mom on Twitter within 3 days of each other.
Nice.
Yeah, because she's actually a pretty fun follow on Twitter. But I'm like, oh, never mind. You're not the parent of a Raider anymore.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, a lot of things were swirling around, but who was it that reported it? Was it Rappaport that reported it?
One of those guys.
Yeah, he said that it was physical related, not money related. So I guess they couldn't come to an agreement with something. I don't know if it was because they couldn't get into the facilities to test him and see if he was ready, see if he was everything that they had hoped that he was. I don't know if there was an injury. I don't know if the guy's just out of shape and they just said, hey, we're going to pass on this. But it sounds like it was the Raiders that, if it's physical related, it was kind of the Raiders that said, well, if we can't do this, then we probably just need to walk away.
They chose to. And, he wasn't their original target anyways. It was Chris Harris Jr. was the one that they really wanted.
Right.
And so then when they looked at, I think, the financial impact of that, and with uncertainty involved, it just makes it an easy decision. You just move on. And then and quickly, they turn right around and signed Demarius Randall.
Yes,
absolutely. The same week or within a couple days of each other, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So this pretty much solidifies our safety room now. So now you're going to have Demarius Randall and Jonathan Abram, I would imagine, as your starting safeties. Don't let anybody get you caught up, again, when you're talking to your friends or on social media or whatnot. Who's going to play strong? Who's going to play free? It doesn't matter. That safety is safety nowadays. Don't get caught up in the assignments of what, because that's not the way safety is really played anymore. You have guys with different skill sets, or at least a little bit diverse in their skill set. But the idea of labeling one free, one strong, that's for Madden. That's not for the real life NFL.
Exactly.
So you're going to have Demarius Randall and Jonathan Abram will be your two starting safeties. Then you'll have Eric Harris and Jeff Heath, I would imagine, in relief. But interesting, Jeff, you and I were talking about this before the show tonight. Now that really frees up LaMarcus Joyner, doesn't it?
Absolutely it does. Yeah, because now he can go and cover the slot full time.
Full time, man. Which is what they said they wanted him for anyway.
Exactly. Well, and you add that and then you throw Corey Littleton in the mix, who can cover the flat, who can cover Travis Kelce and stuff like that. Then you really have stuff to play with. But it's interesting with Demarius Randall. He has a 69.9% coverage grade in 2019, which he would have had the highest on the team.
No kidding.
Yes, absolutely. And in his career, he has 290 tackles, 14 interceptions, and 47 pass deflections, and 2 pick sixes while he played in Green Bay. So it seems like it's an upgrade for sure.
Absolutely. And something that the Raiders have been starved for a long time is playmakers, man. And I'm not using this as a shot at Derek Carr or Tahir Whitehead, but while you look at Whitehead's numbers in terms of amount of tackles, did he lead the team in tackles? Yes, but he also didn't change games for us. He also didn't come up with that big sack, that big hit, that big fumble recovery, that big interception, that big something that turned the tide of the game. Frankly, we haven't had, Eric Harris did a pretty good job this year. He had some big, especially that game against the Chargers, he had some big game-changing type plays, right?
Yes.
We saw Max Crosby flash that a little bit, but really it's been since Mac. You think about Mac picking off Cam Newton on the 5-yard line and running it in for a touchdown. That was and the black hole erupts. And those kinds of plays, that explosive type thing that changes the game, where your numbers, that's where numbers can be taken out of context. And I mentioned Derek in that. Derek's numbers are great, but what big defining moments has he had? Crabtree corner of the end zone. Last year was Renfro in the front corner of the end zone that happened literally right in front of us.
In front of us, yep.
The at Baltimore, back of the end zone to Michael Crabtree. The 2-point conversion against the Saints to open the 2016 season. He's got a few, but in terms of game in, game out, year out, you don't see those big impact plays that or these crazy, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And Cooper even flashed that for us at times. Cooper would, take a quick out and then spin it upfield and take off for 70 yards and a touchdown.
Yes.
We haven't had those playmaking type players. I think we've really missed that.
I think we had a guy that was put on injured reserve after the first week that's going to blow that up this year. He wears 24 on his chest.
Oh, yes.
Think about that.
Thank you.
Think about a guy like that. So people forget that this guy's still there. And he's going to be our captain of the defense in a year or two, I promise you. But, the play that he got injured with was like oh, my gosh. He laid a smack on a donkey receiver and just, annihilated him.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Bend his face mask and everything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? So I kind of went on a tangent there into the offense, but my point being is that somebody like Demarius Randall, who's been criticized for getting burned at times, right? He had good numbers with the Packers, and I think you got those for us. No, yeah, you already said that. Yeah, the 2 pick sixes he had when he was with Green Bay.
Yeah, and he gave up some touchdowns, I think, last year. I think they said that like maybe 8 touchdowns he let up or whatever, but he still would have been the highest graded player on the defense with us. So,
there you go. He's a ball hawk, right? So he's still got that home run hit.
And who did he play for last year?
The freaking Browns.
The Browns, who was getting burned by everybody. So that guy couldn't do all of it alone. You know what I mean? So he got burned with 8 touchdowns. But what does that really mean on the Browns defense?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's a great point, man. And they got him for cheap too. Like it's a 1-year deal. It's $3.25 million.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of chump change when
it's worth up to that point too, probably with incentives.
So there you go. So they got him on the cheap, man. So I think this is going to be really good for the Raiders and for that secondary. And I'm excited about that. I'm a big fan of the safety position.
Yes.
I think that it's a very important position because it's a lot of times your last line of defense. And when you think about like Charles Woodson when he came back to the Raiders and he was playing safety. Like you talk about I'm going to back up all what I said earlier. That was the last guy we had on it. Even still at 34 years old or whatever he was still making big interceptions, causing fumbles, picking the ball up. Like he was still wrecking defenses. But I'll never forget one of my favorite moments of his, the second stint with the Raiders was when him and Peyton were going at it, and he picked Peyton off in the end zone. And it was like that rivalry, quote rivalry, had been going back from when they were competing for the Heisman when he was at Michigan and Peyton was at UT.
Yep.
Like you think about like literally 2 legends going at it, and our legend won.
Yeah.
Like I just like
so cool.
So cool, man. At that age to still have that kind of impact on the game. And anyway, so we haven't had that. We haven't had that, and we're going to now. I'm really excited about Abram and Demarius Randall. And then
absolutely.
And now I'm again, and it's not like Eric Harris sucked last year.
Yeah, he sealed the game in Indy.
Sealed the game.
You know what I mean? Like the pick 6 right there close to the end of the game sealed the deal for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that game against the Chargers I mentioned earlier, what do you have? He had 3 and then almost a 4th or something. They got called back for something.
Yeah, but what? And 1 or 2 of them were pick 6s or something like that. Yeah, it was crazy.
Balled out, dude. And then Jeff Heath is no slouch. So I mean, those 4 guys, like,
it's gonna be good.
And Dolan Levitt, our buddy Dolan, is still on the team. So I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be great. All right.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking about playmakers, and let's go to the defensive line.
All right,
let's go to the defensive line, and let's talk about Malik Collins.
Oh, my gosh.
Malik Collins, who, I didn't know who he was really, but...
Other than he was a Cowboy, but
because I don't like the Cowboys. But he had 21 pressures last season alone. And that was more than any Raider interior defensive lineman has had in the last 4 seasons combined.
Oh, my gosh.
Combined.
21 pressure. Okay, no, wait a minute. 21 pressures as an interior lineman?
Yes.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's up there with like Jarrell Casey, like not Aaron Donald, but
the elite guys in the league, 21 pressures in 1 season alone. That's more than the Raiders over the last 4 years. Now, granted, Mo Hurst is only a couple years in, and he has 19 in 2 seasons. So he almost doubled up.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's a good move, man.
You talk about game changers.
There you go.
Moving a guy inside to block a guy like Malik Collins is going to free up Cleveland Farrell. It's going to free up Max Crosby. It's going to free up, whoever.
I think we got sneaky good on our defensive line this year. Like kind of unheralded because look, that was one of the strengths of our team last year, and people want to give Cleve Farrell some crap, but we know that the game is more than just sacks. when you look at the way that he performed against the run, and you look at the way that he occupied blocks where people had to freaking account for him,
Yes.
to allow guys like Max to get free. And
Yeah, well, that's why they call it salt and pepper, not just salt, or not just pepper.
not just pepper. Exactly.
Yeah, they work together, man.
Absolutely. And so I think that we were already pretty good. I'm with you on Mo Hurst. PJ Hall has had some decent flashes. Now you add Malik Collins into the mix. You add Carl Nassib into the mix. It's like all of a sudden, like we're starting to round out a pretty stout front four, or potentially front three, whatever it looks like.
You could even argue and say we're stacking up a full defense. I mean, all we need is a corner or two. You know what I mean? Like we're just a couple pieces away from this defense being scary good.
You're right, because you know what? Because that's the thing about Kwiatkowski is that guy can rush the passer too.
Yes,
we've seen him go out and wreck Aaron Rodgers. And it's not like Green Bay has like some crap offensive line. Like Green Bay's got a good offensive line. They got a freaking legend at quarterback, and Kwiatkowski playing half snaps is back there wrecking shop in the backfield. Like
exactly.
Oh my gosh, man! Like I'm fired up, dude.
Yeah,
like
it's gonna be sweet.
This is gonna be sweet, man. And you're right. I think that it wouldn't shock me. And Raider Nation, and Jeff's got some more on us on Kwiatkowski here in a sec. But before we get to that, I wouldn't be shocked, Jeff, if at 12 we go corner. I know that unless it's maybe CD Lamb.
If it's CD, then you grab him. If CD's not there, I'm all about corner at 12.
You might go that way, man. You know, you might get the Christian, what's his name, at LSU. Like,
yes,
there's of course, the Okuda's going to be long gone out of Ohio State. But there are still, and I keep forgetting his last. Is it CJ Anderson, the kid out of Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, there's going to be some good. It wouldn't even shock me if they went double. I know we've joked about getting two wide receivers. I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't shock me. But it's going to go wide receiver corner. I think the longer this has gone on, that's really where I've settled into.
Yeah.
We're going to go wide receiver corner and then look for offensive linemen in the third.
Yeah.
I think that's where, and then maybe another linebacker. I think that's kind of where it's starting to round out.
And you know what? And we're not done in free agency. I'm telling you, we're not done in free agency.
Well, we have a ton of money left, but
we got, look at the deal that we restructured with Hudson.
Oh, yeah, that's
right.
And
then the money that we just, basically swapped money with Randall. We still got a lot of money to play with.
That's true.
So I don't know. Do we go and snag Logan Ryan?
Or Clowney.
Holy crap,
dude.
Gosh.
Wouldn't that be ridiculous?
That would be.
Talk about depth, dude.
You want to talk about a guy that solidifies a Raider?
Oh,
the guy knocking heads off in college.
My gosh, dude.
Holy crap.
That would be insane. Can you imagine that? Talk about a rotational pass rush, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez,
it'd be unstoppable.
That's crazy.
That'd be unstoppable.
Is that worth it?
That'd be better.
Maybe.
I'm telling you, that'd be better than when Clowney was on the Texans with him and Watt.
Yeah, because they had no depth interior.
Yeah, but then you look at.
Merciless is pretty good coming off the edge too. That was pretty formidable.
But then look at Clowney, Farrell, Crosby. Holy cow! Kwiatkowski, add that in the mix. You know what I mean?
Freaking and Hurst and Collins in the middle. Come on, man! Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Make me feel funny inside.
I know, right? But you know what?
Tell me more. Well, speaking of Kwiatkowski.
Yeah, Kwiatkowski, he's a Raider, and he wanted to be a Raider. And he was sold with Vegas, like what we talked about a long time ago.
Really?
They sold him on Vegas. So they called him very early, and when they spoke to him, they said it was clear that the whole organization was excited about going to Vegas, and that was the number one reason, or one of the number one reasons why he made the decision to go. He played us last year in London and said he just loved the mentality that the Raiders brought to the game, and he took a few other calls, but decided, you know what, silver and black is where I need to be.
Oh, right on, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So cool. Good deal. And I love it how he was very complimentary of Corey Littleton. As well, talked about how he's a proven commodity, and Kwiatkowski is the up and comer. But those two collectively, dude, I'm telling you, man, you're right. I said defensive line. You really are front seven. Gosh, man, we've really improved. And look, and I'm a sucker for this stuff, man. I think the Raiders get better every year, and I get excited every year, and I think we're going to win Super Bowl every year. So I understand my own bias and my own, my fandom, is, whatever. It leads. I get it. I'm a little bit more of an optimist because I'm a freaking fan.
Well, yeah.
But I feel like this is one of those years where it's wow, we really did get better. We really there's some years like especially during the early McKenzie years, where it was like, you know, you look at our draft and it's like you draft like Tony Bergstrom, and it's like, oh, yippee, like, you know what I mean? Or like,
Yeah.
you look at like, okay, like we signed oh my gosh, what's his name from the Giants? Justin Tuck. Like we signed Justin Tuck, and it's like, okay. I mean, that's kind of cool, but he's kind of old. Like, it's hard to get excited about it. You know what I mean? Even recently, when we signed Derek Johnson, it's like, okay. Like,
Sure.
Okay, that's fun. You know, Jason Witten, like, okay, that's fun. But these defensive guys,
Oh, yeah.
these are not guys in their 30s. These are guys in their
their
mid
prime.
20s, in
Yeah.
their freaking prime. These are guys that are going to be Raiders for like 5, 6, 7 years, maybe.
Yes.
Like, this is freaking badass, dude.
Yes.
This is exciting. So I'm fired up for this one. All right. Anything else, man, on free agency you want to get to?
I feel like we've done 4 episodes of RFR Rundown on free agency, and we could do another 4 or 6 more. You know, but no, I'm excited. I'm so excited.
I think that's the ultimate takeaway, right? Is that there's a lot of fun going on.
Yeah, it's nothing but good stuff, Raider Nation. It's
Yeah.
all good.
Absolutely. So a couple more fun stories to get to. Something that I didn't have on our rundown, Jeff, but I want to tag just real quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of the draft, you know, as the commissioner in the league said that all teams need to not be at their facilities. So the Raiders were still in Alameda. So being that they had to vacate Alameda, that means that they're done. That's it, because the Henderson, Nevada headquarters is about complete. And so since the draft is going to be done remotely,
Goodbye, Oakland.
that's it, man. That's like
That's
the last bit has finally moved out of 1220 Harbor Parkway, man.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Crazy. We are official.
Yeah, we're the official Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas freaking Raiders, man. That's crazy.
Yep.
Crazy stuff. All right. This is a cool story. So, Paul Tagliabue, former commissioner for the NFL,
Yes.
is getting inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And we were pretty tore up as Raider fans this year because Tom Flores was not considered, or actually he was considered for induction and got passed over, which was an absolute atrocity considering that he had been considered under the prior structure, the prior induction. Thank you. Under the prior induction criteria. And then now they expanded it and he still got passed over.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous. More so for me than Flores even is Cliff freaking Branch.
Yeah.
The fact that Cliff Branch is not in the Hall of Fame
It's ridiculous.
It literally is ridiculous. You know, when you look at the Hall of Fame, I think it boils down to a couple of things. Were you the best at your position in which the time you played? And what did your statistics look like amongst your peers? When you look at those things, Cliff Branch has better stats, or at least equal to stats, than the players of his generation that are already in. John
Sure. Yeah,
Stallworth,
like
Lynn
Swanee,
Swann,
yeah,
all
yep.
them. You know, Harold Carmichael, who's going in ahead of him this year. And he's got 3 freaking rings.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break. And you talk about people that change the position. That's another thing in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Did you do something that we had never seen before? We hadn't seen speedsters like that. We hadn't seen somebody torching fools down the sideline for freaking 60-yard bombs like that.
Yep.
From Snake and Plunkett and everything. Plunkett could barely throw it 60 yards downfield. Anyways, and freaking Branch is still going and doing it.
Yep.
Like, I hate that one. All right. Pisses me off. F you, NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's not even the NFL Hall of Fame. It's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. F you. F you a lot for leaving Cliff Branch out of there. Can you tell I'm passionate about this?
Tell the rest of the story. Jeez.
Sheesh, man. Makes me mad, dude.
Yeah. Does it?
Okay. So, despite the atrocities of leaving those two guys off this year's roster of inductees, there is at least one cool footnote to the story.
Okay.
Paul Tagliabue is going in.
Yes.
You get to select your presenter as the person that's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. You get to choose who introduces you.
Yeah.
This was a long thing for Al Davis. He loved that he had induced. I can't know why I keep saying that. He loved that he introduced more people.
Inducted people into the Hall of Fame.
Into the Hall of Fame.
How many was it? 9?
8 or 9, something
Yeah.
like that. It was a bunch, right? He loved that he was the guy that had been chosen. And I think the last one was Madden. I think that was the last guy that he led into the Hall of Fame. So really cool. All right. So on the heels of that understanding as Raider fans and how important that is to us as an organization, Paul Tagliabue has chosen a Raider. And
Okay.
not only has he chosen a Raider, he's chosen Art Shell, one of your best friends.
Oh, the biggest Swag Jeff fan out there.
Gosh, he loves you, and he
Oh
loves
my-
taking selfies with you.
Oh, he loves that
He
so
loves
much.
you. But as you'll hear in this clip, I think something that's very important and almost, frankly, made me a little teary because I'm that kind of a fan when it comes to this stuff. It was really because also not only as Art Shell and who he is as a man and who he represented as a player for the Raiders, as a coach for the Raiders, the significance of being the first African-American head coach, like so much stuff, right, that around Art Shell and his significance in the league, but also his relationship with Gene Upshaw, who was one of the first, or not one of the first, but one of the most important Players Association directors. Like Gene Upshaw did huge things for the labor union. And in terms of like finding labor peace amongst the owners and the players, Gene Upshaw was the guy working with Tagliabue and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And sadly, we've lost Gene Upshaw, but Art Shell was like one of the closest comrades of Upshaw, and that's why he chose. Like, this is freaking. I'm
That's
getting
so
chills right
cool.
now talking about it, man. This is so cool. So let's listen to this clip from Paul Tagliabue.
Well, I've considered a lot of different people to be my presenter, which I think is an opportunity for me to send visually some of my feelings about what's important in the National Football League. So I've selected Art Shell to be my presenter. Why Art Shell? First of all, he's a Hall of Fame player and an all-century player. Second of all, he was an outstanding coach. And maybe more important than that, he was the first African-American coach in the modern history of the National Football League. Those two things mean a lot to me. But just as important, he worked for me for, I think, 4 years in the league office and was a powerful force in the culture of the league office. And also important for me is the fact that he's from a historically black college. And there's so many players from historically black colleges who I don't think that institution, the institution of the HBCUs, has been adequately recognized. For instance, I went to Grambling to spend a day with Eddie Robinson at Doug Williams' request. Doug asked me to do that because he felt, this goes back 30 years probably, the HBCUs had not been adequately represented. So I think Art is a great representative of the HBCUs and what they have meant to the National Football League. So for lots of, and I guess the last consideration, which is more about Art, less about Art than about Art's colleague, Gene Upshaw. Art and Gene were extremely close, as you know, playing on the same offensive line. And of course, Gene's no longer with us, but he and Art were great friends. And Gene was the person who collaborated with me, with Dan Rooney, with the owners to get the collective bargaining agreement done that brought labor peace to the NFL. So when I thought it through, I came up with about 5 different reasons to have Art Shell as my presenter. And I'm thrilled that he's willing to do it.
That's so cool, man.
Dude, isn't that legit?
I love that.
That's like some serious historical stuff there, man. I love it. That's the stuff that I really nerd out about more than the X's and O's of football. I really nerd out on the relationships that get formed in terms of like, you know, when you think about like the greatness of the Raiders, like there are no two more guys that exemplify that than Art Shell and Gene Upshaw. Like, and to hear that there's a commission, this is an NFL commissioner. This is a guy that literally could have picked anyone. Like he was commissioner from like, I forget what year he started, but I think all the way to like 2001 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like all through the 80s, all through the 90s. Like this is a guy that like literally could have picked. You think of all the greatness that happened and all the freaking, you know what I mean? All the Cowboys teams and like all the people that were, you know, the Niners and like he could have picked anybody. And he went with freaking Art Shell, dude.
That's
like that's
so cool.
It's freaking awesome, man. I love that kind of stuff. And so anyway, so that almost makes me want to go like, cause it's not that far from us.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for a good Raider to get inducted, but to go up there and to see it. I miss Timmy Brown. That one. I wish I could have gone up there to see that one, but this would be pretty legit, dude, to go up there and see Art Shell. Of course, but we already met him firsthand though, didn't we? So,
yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. There was you and Mosh kind of stalked him for a minute.
Oh, I was creeping.
Tell
big
that
time.
story. So the first time we met him, I was like, holy crap, dude. I'm like, look, there's Art Shell right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you take a picture? Someone took a picture of
I did.
Was it you?
Yeah, because
It was you and Sonny, wasn't it?
Well, Mosh and Sonny went over to Art Shell and they said, hey, coach, can we get a picture with you real quick? And he was like, yeah. And so I took a picture of Mosh and Sonny with Art Shell. And then you and I were like kind of like back. Like we let them go. We knew there was an opportunity to get a photo op, and you and I were like, well, let those two guys go.
We were switching up. We were switching up.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so we're walking around and I'm looking for other Raider players and, seeing all these, Raiderettes and stuff like that walking around, and I see Art Shell. And I see him, and he's sitting on the couch with his legs crossed drinking a beer, and he's sitting talking to some lady. And I go sit down right next to him. I go, Mosh, come on. So we walk over there and we just sit down in like the chairs next to him. And he's in like a deep conversation with this person talking whatever. And I'm just creeping. And I'm like taking pictures of him while I'm just sitting there talking to this random woman. Well, then the event is about to start. And so they call people and say, okay, people start making your way to the tables. We're going to start or the doors had opened up or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he gets up.
This is the Bolitnikoff Foundation.
This is the Bolitnikoff Foundation thing in November. Yeah, the Crap Fest. And so he gets up and I'm like, okay, here's my chance. I want a picture with this guy. And so I stand up and I go, excuse me, Mr. Shell, can I get a picture or can I get a selfie with you right quick? And he kind of just looks at me and I go, yeah, like a photo. Oh, yeah, well, make it fast. So I lean in and I take a picture, but the picture, he looks like 10 kinds of pissed off.
Oh my God. I've got that picture and we need to make that. That'll be our thumbnail for this episode.
Okay.
The RFR Rundown. Jeff and freaking Art Shell.
Perfect.
The legendary Art Shell, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's too funny. And I remember because me and Sonny and the rest of us had already made our way to the table.
Yeah.
And you're like, I met Art Shell. And they're like, yeah, dude, we saw him. You're like, no, dude, I met him. I flashed on his picture.
I creeped on him for 30 minutes.
Oh, man, Too funny. All right, so one more thing before we get out of here, Jeff. The league, this is not a Raiders story, but this is an interesting NFL story.
Yeah.
What did you think about last year? Okay, so the Saints got jobbed in the playoffs 2 years ago.
Yes,
big time. They got jobbed by the Rams and that pass interference call, that now infamous play, where it's clearly PI. The Saints should have won that game. It should have been the Saints and the Brady's in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And damn the officials for robbing us of a Brady Breeze Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, right? So they institute this now challenge rule this last year, and it really fell flat. The officials, it was forced upon them.
And you know what? And I don't think I saw but maybe one or two the entire season that was overturned because the refs made the call and they were like, no, we made the right call, damn it. And the play stands or whatever.
It was almost like they were protesting by not overturning these. So anyway, so let's hear the call here. And then, Jeff, I want you to tell us about how that's going to impact our Raiders.
Yeah, and not a surprise, Andrew. When teams filled out a survey after the season about this rule, an overwhelming number of those who were asked said they did not believe that this rule should come back, and they did not think it would in itself. So really not a shocker here that is probably going to be one and done. What is still left to be decided, and assuming these league meetings in May are still on, will probably be handled then. Will there be a sky judge to fix egregious errors on the field? That is something that, of course, merits further discussion, and it will be discussed.
I think that'd be a great idea.
That would be awesome. Yes, and that would solve the whole thing because,
Tell me about, you're a big hockey fan.
Yes.
Tell me about how they do it in hockey.
Well, so it's done by the official, and it's called in from Toronto. It's called in from their headquarters of a game. If there's a missed call or a questionable call or something like that, they have offsides, goaltender interference, things like that, and the call is made by an office in Toronto, gets called in, and that's when they make the call. But and then if you do challenge it, there is an option in the NHL for you to challenge it. But if you lose that challenge, then you get a penalty.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so it's not that you lose a timeout, which you do lose the timeout, but you also get a 2-minute minor penalty.
Oh my gosh! So it's really punitive if you do it unnecessarily.
Yes.
So I think that now, obviously, the NFL is not going to probably go that route where they're not going to like move the ball back 10 yards or whatever.
Sure.
They're not going to do that. But I think the idea of having an overriding, quote, sky judge, eye in the sky, somebody in the league office in New York, that when a play happens,
that's super questionable.
And it wasn't even questionable. Like that play with the Rams and Saints, there is no more clear cut, offense of pass interference.
Pass interference call we've ever seen,
and it didn't get called. So would it be, to have somebody in the league office go, okay, let's go ahead and flip that one over.
And changing that rule, I liked the concept of it. I liked the idea of it, but it didn't really pan out. And so really how this impacts the Raiders is it saves us probably 9 timeouts throughout the whole season.
Because
we didn't win one. Gruden challenged, I can recall probably 8 or 9 different games we challenged one and lost it.
And some of those were pretty egregious. Some of those were kind of clear cut.
Yeah.
So I think that, the officials not calling those, and so impacting negatively the Raiders in those instances, in their way of, quote, protesting or whatever. Instead, if it's the league office, then it's not a coach. They're not being second guessed by a coach or by, you know what I mean? They're being overridden by the league office. And I got to think that, look, these officials, whether we like it or not, they're ego driven, man.
Oh yeah.
They're all about, they're all about them being on camera, and they're all about their impact and their, you know what I mean?
What they say goes in the game. They kind of,
You feel like there's a little bit of an abuse of power at times.
Yeah.
And so I think this would still allow them to feel that presence, to feel that way about themselves, to where you don't get these, just complete, back turns on an initiative. It allows them to still maintain that sense of power in it, and yet we then, as the fan and the league, get the power to do the right thing, which is freaking turn over a dumb ass call like what happened in that. So
yes.
Anyway, so good stuff for the league, and I think good for the Raiders ultimately. All right, Swaggo. I feel like we've been talking for an hour.
I know, right? We need to go take a nap before RFR Live.
Before RFR Live. Well, so thanks for joining us here on the Rundown. Again, let us know. Give us some feedback on the show, good or bad. We want to hear from you. Subscribe to the channel that is Murf's Fan Cave on any podcast service, or if you're on the YouTubes, please subscribe. We love the views we get on the YouTube. But
yes.
Please hit the subscribe button while you're there.
Yes, and we hit episode 162 was the highest ever. 3,000 plus. I think we're at 3,250 or something like that right now. It's crazy good. Thank you so much. But subscribe, because you could win stuff.
We're going to give away some stuff. Swaggo's got some stuff he's going to give away. We got some stuff here from the cave that we're going to give away.
Yeah.
And that really nice Get Made shirt with the signatures from me and Swaggo and Uncle Mosh, because we're that self-indulgent that we will award you our own signature.
Yeah, and you can sell it on eBay for like a quarter.
like $6 in a pack of envelopes or something. Yeah. All right, appreciate you, Raider Nation. Thanks for tuning in. Swaggo, thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot. Peace.
Hey, everybody, this is your old Uncle Mosh from RFR Live, and I got a little question for you. You ever want to talk about the best ice-cold cerveza you just finished? Or you want to banter with your crew about all the good and the bad in the nation? The Raider Nation, that is. Well, you can do all this and much more on the Mojo Pod Show. That's right, the Mojo Pod Show, where you get riveting conversation, straightforward reviews about your favorite suds, and an honest approach to everything Raiders football. That's Mojo Pod Show on Murf's Fan Cave Podcast Network.